Hey guys, welcome back. It is so good to see you. What a crazy whirlwind couple of weeks it's been. Uh, as you know, I went on a trip, but then when I got back from the trip, I got COVID, and I don't want to make a political statement. I don't know what your views are, but I just want to encourage you to stay healthy, do what you need to do to take care of you and your family, because it is a serious thing, very scary time, and so make sure you're doing what you can to be healthy. I think I'm on the uptick, and so I'm doing all right. But like I promised you, I went on a trip, and I want to share that trip with you. I want to tell you why I got to go, how I got to go, and share some insights when it comes to scripture and things like that that I really took away from this trip. Now, you might be watching on YouTube, and that'll be great because you can see everything I saw. Maybe not everything, but you can see some of the things I saw. But if you're just listening to the audio and you're like, I don't want to go to YouTube to watch the video, don't worry. I've put chapters into the audio podcast, and so now you can click on the intro, you can click on the recap video, or you can skip to the main part of this podcast. And so, with that being said, I just want to let you know that if you hadn't known already, I went to Italy. This was a trip pretty much just gifted to me from a former exchange student that I hosted him and his family. And I'll get into that in a little bit, but let me set the scene before I start the video. I got to Kansas City. My flights got canceled. Apparently, there was a hurricane hitting New York, and New York is where I had to fly out of. New York is the only airport that was flying into Milan, and so somehow I had to get to New York. And so the first 24 hours of the trip was a little crazy trying to fly through a hurricane, but it was an adventure and we did it. So check this video out. All right, guys. Hey, we had our first flight canceled because of the hurricane in New York, and so literally I got to the airport at 6:30 a.m. Just to figure out what was next. The only thing they could do for me was to put me on standby, which I didn't know what standby was. But if you're like me and you don't know what it is, it just means you have to stand by and hope somebody doesn't get on the plane and then you get their spot. Well, I lucked out, hopped a ride to Washington, D.C., from Washington here to New York. Now we got a couple of hours until we board our long flight, and then we'll reach our final destination. So let's do it. just checking out some hidden gems in Italy. We're actually in Portofino right now. This is where they based the movie Luca from Disney at. So it's so much fun being here, looking around, checking out the sights and sounds. We've been staying in a place called Pavia, and Pavia is actually the burial site of Saint Augustine. And something interesting about Saint Augustine is he has a quote that says, life is a book, but if you never travel, you don't turn the pages. And I love that your whole life is this book, but we get to choose to live it or not, to travel, to see all that life has to offer. And it's a great reminder to keep pressing on and to keep choosing to turn the pages and exploring new things. Man, what a trip it was. I am so thankful that I got to go on this trip. Um, Not because I want to brag that I went on this extravagant trip. In fact, when we were in Italy, we didn't go into museums. We didn't do a lot of the touristy things. It was literally just me sitting in Italy, and it was the most beautiful time. And I wouldn't have traded any of it for the world. Some quality time with people I love. Let me set the stage for you. I hosted Roberto. If you watch the video, he was one of the people in the video. Um, I hosted him from 2019 to 2020, and then COVID came, and he had to go home early. But we've stayed close, and back towards the end of 2020, he called and he said, "Justin, your 30th birthday is next summer. We want to bring you to Italy to celebrate." Well, that's gracious. Let me do some finances. Let's figure it out. Let's make it happen. It's going to be awesome. But then finances got tight, and so I was like, I don't know if I can do it. But he's like, no, we really want to have you here. We're going to make it happen. Okay, that's great. But then, as most of you know, in February, because of some choices I made, my life kind of flipped upside down. And I lost a lot of things, including my job, a lot of relationships, and things like that. And so I didn't think this trip was going to happen. In fact, I had to have a conversation with Roberto and, talk to him about what happened and kind of put the ball into him and his family's court if they even wanted a relationship with me. And there was something beautiful because Roberto's not a Christian. His family's not religious. Um, but him and his family showed me what real love looks like. Because despite everything, they have surrounded me, they have loved me, they've supported me, and all doing it because it's me. And I don't know how else to express how good that feels. And so I'm thankful to know that I have family all over the world, like Roberto's family. So so then they're like, no, we still want to have you, but then COVID started ramping up, and so we're like, maybe we should put the brakes on this trip just to see what's going to happen with this Delta variant. And and so then COVID kind of ramped up. It was, I don't know where you want to say it's at right now, but it looked like the trip was going to happen. But then I realized I hadn't renewed my passport, and so I expedited my passport. I was supposed to have it by August 10th, I think. But then we started reading articles that even if you expedite your passport, it could have taken 3 to 6 months to get. And so we really didn't think I was going to go. And I literally picked up the phone. I called Roberto. And I said, "Hey, I don't think this trip is going to work. I know he actually starts college this week, and so I knew our time frame was getting shorter and shorter, and so I was like, I don't think it's going to work. We're just going to have to figure out another time to do it." Um, I think it was the day after, maybe it was 2 days after, but not too long after, my passport wound up on our porch. My passport came in uh, well quicker than what we had anticipated. So I called him. I'm like, hey, the offer still stands. I have my passport. He said, can you be here next Sunday? I'm like, all right, we're doing this. And literally that's how the trip started, with all these ups and downs and not knowing if I'm going and going and not going. And it was a whirlwind. But again, I'm so thankful it did, because at this point in my life, I needed an extended break from everything. Not that I want to run away from my responsibilities or the things I need to do, but it was something good for my soul, to be with these people. Some I had never actually physically met until this trip, but to be surrounded by people I loved, to take my brain off of things for several days. It was definitely a blessing. And one of the coolest parts about exploring Italy is there's a lot of history to Italy. And I could have just walked around. I was content not going into the museums and not going into all these touristy sightseeing places. Now we saw some things. We saw the Colosseum. We saw Trevi Fountain. We saw these important things, but we didn't go in. We didn't linger there for long periods of times. We spent a lot of time just walking and looking at the history. And man, there's so much history compared to our country in Rome and Italy in general. Um, and one of the coolest things that we got to see, again, we didn't go inside, but there was, in Rome near the Colosseum, is the Mamertine prison. And if you don't know what the Mamertine prison is, this is the prison that Paul was held in his final days before he was killed. He was killed in Rome. And this is actually probably where he penned some of his final words to Timothy. He says this: I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and at the time of my departure it has now come. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And man, how powerful it is just to be near the site where he penned those words. These famous words that hopefully all of us, hopefully I, at the end of my life, I can say, hey, I fought the fight. Uh, did I do it well all the time? No, I messed up a lot. But I have fought the fight. I finished the race, and at the end of my life, I kept the faith, no matter what happens. And it was just a powerful moment. But it really got me thinking about Paul being in Rome. And we know he wrote a letter to the book, not to the book, he wrote a book. It was a letter to the people in Rome. He actually says this. He hadn't been to Rome yet. He says, I hope to see you in passing as I go to Spain, and to be helped on my journey there by you once I've enjoyed your company for a while. At present, however, I'm going to Jerusalem, bringing aid to the saints. So Paul's plan was to go to Rome on his way to Spain. And it just didn't work out the way he thought it was going to. A lot like my trip to Italy didn't work out the way that I had originally planned back at the end of 2020. This celebration of my birthday, 30th birthday, just having a great time. We have the dates, we're set up, we go. It was ups and downs emotionally, financially, physically, just a lot of ups and downs. And my trip was unknown, and Paul's was too. In fact, he didn't get to go to Rome on his way to Spain. In fact, when he went to Rome, he was a prisoner. His ship had been shipwrecked, and they took him to Rome, and he ended his life there. It wasn't in passing to be an encouragement or to be encouraged by other people. Now, I'm sure that happened, but his main purpose in Rome when he was there, because he was a prisoner. And I'm sure that's not what he expected when he went to Rome. I'm sure that's not the way that he had planned his trip. But I think a lot of times it's okay to plan things. It's okay to have goals and set dreams, but I think oftentimes we put our goals and dreams in 1, 2, 3 order, and God works way different. Maybe he does C, B, A, and it's just way different than what we want it. And I think we have to be okay with that. That God's going to take us places that we don't want to go. God's going to take us down roads that we don't want to take. And it's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be what we think is best or good. But I don't think we should have faith in the fact that everything's going to work out hunky-dory and nice and easy. I think we have faith in a God who's always been there, that's always come through and kept his promises. And no matter what life looks like, no matter what circumstances look like, we keep our faith in God, and that's it. We don't put our faith in tomorrow. We don't put our faith in a job opportunity or a relationship. We put our faith in God. And no matter what life looks like, if we got to Rome to be encouraged, great. But if we got to Rome to be a prisoner, awesome. Because God knows what he's doing far more than any of us know what we're doing. And I don't know about you, but in my life right now, I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I don't know what next week looks like. I don't know what the next month looks like. Sometimes it scares me. Sometimes it worries me. But I do know that God's in control, and I'm going to put my faith in him. And no matter what it looks like, I know that I can get through this life because he's never failed. He's never let me down. I've let him down so many times, but he's always still right there. He's my one constant. And I don't know. I hope that's encouragement for you today. That no matter what in life happens, we can do one thing, and that's to press on. And the only reason we can press on is because we have a God that is faithful and consistent and true to his word. That's such encouragement for me. I hope it is for you as well. Hey, can't wait to be with you, hopefully in more of a normal setting next week as we continue through the book of James. I hope you've been enjoying that as much as I have. I can't wait to see you next week. Until then, adios.